Coming up, we have all the latest concerning former women's ice hockey coach Rick Seeley, and we cover the adjustment period for the men's basketball program. This is Bobcat Breakdown. Hello everyone and welcome to Bobcat Breakdown presented by QU Online. Finish your degree early with online summer courses. I'm Nicholas Colon, joined by Rai Chai and Mike Dalton. Fellas, how are we doing today?
Doing great. I'm honored to be up here with such a couple of handsome individuals.
Doing good, Nick.
Good, nice to have you guys. So we have a jam-packed show today, and we start off with our very own Andrew Badillo in studio, breaking down the latest in the Rick Seeley women's ice hockey case. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks a lot, Nick. Glad to be here. Just before we start and break down this memorandum, I do want to warn viewers at home that the content inside this memorandum is very graphic, so viewer discretion is advised. Guys, let's get right down into it. Break down the memorandum. The introduction part of this memorandum basically summarizes the verbal and physical abuse allegations against Rick Seeley. It cites student-athlete surveys that date back to 2009 and 2010, and within all of the surveys dating up to 2014, 2015, there are examples of physical and verbal abuse by Seeley towards his players. Then it gets a little bit into another incident in the 2014-2015 season where an alleged incident happened between TT Cianfrano, who at the time was a freshman, and Rick Seeley. Allegedly, Seeley grabbed Cianfrano on the bench during the game at Harvard and physically abused her, also yelling curse words in her face. Assistant coach Paul Nemetz Carlson had to break the two up, and actually once Carlson stepped in to break it up, Seeley actually cursed at him and said, "Don't effing touch me ever again, Paul." The introduction part of the memorandum then goes into meetings between the team and athletic administrators. The meeting was called after the Harvard incident by Morgan Fitzward, who at the time was the captain of the team. She felt disgusted as to what was going on while she was at Quinnipiac, dating back to her freshman season leading up to the Harvard game. The Harvard game for her was the tipping point. And when she was in meetings with athletic administrators, she was asked why she hadn't come forward with all of these allegations of abuse before. And she actually said that her and a bunch of her other teammates were too scared to move forward with the allegations and come to administration because of Seeley's alleged promises to the team that his relationship with, at the time, athletic director Jack McDonald was so close that Jack would never get Seeley in trouble, and that all the information on the surveys would basically be swept underneath the rug. Again, guys, these are all allegations, but let's get into some of the details of the abuse. Once again, they are very graphic, so viewership is advised. Seeley went as far as using racial slurs when telling the team to lower music in the locker room. Again, there were many alleged accounts of this from players, as well as interviews held with Cass Turner and Paul Nemetz Carlson by administration. In these interviews, Cass Turner did acknowledge that Cass Turner did not acknowledge say that she heard the alleged comments about the music, but Paul Nemetz Carlson did hear the comments about the music, but he did not hear the racial slur in that reference to turning off the music. Other instances involved yanking and grabbing Kelly Babstock in an away game versus RPI during the 2013-2014 season. Once again, athletic administrators and the team met about this incident, and in a meeting with those administrators, Babstock alleged that Seeley told her in front of several teammates that he, quote, loves everyone except Babstock. If I, Seeley, went back, I would have never recruited you, as referring to Babstock. Also, according to the documents, Babstock lost track of the amount of time Seeley called her, quote, effing stupid. Once again, guys, these are all allegations. In the memorandum, it also notes that Cass Turner, the current head coach and assistant under Seeley at the time, said that Seeley had problems with his best players and he felt threatened by them. Just to make note, Kelly Babstock is regarded by many as the best women's ice hockey player in Quinnipiac women's ice hockey program history. She tallied just over 200 points. And then going back again, Sealy referred to Jack McDonald as a father-like figure to him, and that is why, allegedly, that is why players felt so frightened to come forward with these allegations to administration. The Harvard game was the tipping point. Many times within the surveys, players cited the fact that Harvard personnel even saw the alleged abuse by Sealy towards Cian Ferrano. Fans also saw the alleged abuse as well. And guys, this also is parallel to abuse that was seen, alleged abuse that was reported back at Clarkson University, Sealy's former job back in 2003, 2004. David Bills, who was a father of a former player of Sealy's at Clarkson, actually came forward with documents filled with alleged abuse that's similar to the ones that we saw in those athlete surveys.
Andrew, absolutely great reporting. And I know you'll keep us updated with any new leaks with that situation. Thank you very much for joining us. So as we move on from the rink to the hardwood, it's been a busy last couple of weeks if you've been following the QU men's basketball team. New coaching hires and a slew of transfers dominating the headlines. Our very own MJ Beard is live in the Piazza with senior big man Alan Chiga to talk about the latest. MJ?
Nick, thank you so much. Alan, thank you for taking your time to come out to Bobcat Breakdown tonight. So first question for you. Next year you're going to be a redshirt senior. What are you looking forward to most? You excited to be back?
I'm very excited. As of right now, I'm just looking to have a fun season. Enjoy it as much as possible because you never know. It could be your last time playing competitive basketball. So have fun with it.
All right, so just a couple weeks ago, Baker Dunleavy was hired as the head coach. So what kind of expectations do you have as, a leader on this team for him in terms of the team?
The expectation is really, really high. I mean, we have hope of winning going to the national tournament next year. And that means we have to win our league. And I have a strong belief that if we are able to get the right pieces together, we have a very strong chances to make a run.
Baker said a couple weeks ago when he was first hired, he was having one-on-one meetings with each player. How do you feel that went, and are you confident moving forward?
Well, I'm confident moving forward. All I expect is just an opportunity to just go out there every day and showcase yourself and try to compete at a higher level and try to make something happen for yourself and as a team. So I'm very excited for that, yeah.
You mentioned it, winning the league and making that NCAA tournament, but do you have any, you personally or the team have goals for this season?
I mean, I think the common goal for this season is to win the tournament. Yes, that is our ultimate goal, which is my number one goal as well. I mean, you only have one more shot to make it happen, so you have to utilize it as much as possible.
And how much do you think this off-season preparation over the summer and into next year is going to be, an important factor?
I mean, these are really crucial. This is when every team get better, every player develop themselves, and if you don't take it seriously, you might find yourself way behind. So everyone have to buy in.
And of course, just earlier today, Mikey Dixon decides he's going to transfer out of Quinnipiac and go to St. John's. So as I said before, as a senior leader on this team, how is the team camaraderie and morale moving forward?
I mean, we understand that this is a business, and every day you have to make the best decision for yourself. And we know Mikey Dixon for a year now, and we love him, and we will support whatever decision he made, which now is to go to St. John, and we will support him, and we will try to move forward and see what we can do.
All right, Alan, thank you so much for your time tonight. Nick, back to you at the desk.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent job, MJ. And we just want to make a quick note about the Rick Sealy case. There actually has been no comment from Jack McDonald or the university. We have Mark Thompson, Billy Mecca, and Morgan Fitzward did not actually return a message when we reached out. But guys, we just want to move on. And you just heard MJ talk to Alan. Big loss there in Mikey Dixon. We just want to talk about how does this affect the program going forward?
Well, it's going to set them back a couple of years. Just think of the ripple effect this could have. You think about not just Mikey Dixon, but Peter Kiss. These are two individuals who are so close and almost best friends, and you have to think this is going to really affect Peter Kiss's decision moving forward. So the Bobcats might lose him as well, and there goes the future of the backcourt. So it will set them back a couple of years. I think fans should have faith in Baker Dunleavy and give him time to build those recruiting routes in this Connecticut area. He's a proven recruiter, a proven player developer. So I still think the program is trending in the right direction. It just might take a little longer now than initially expected.
Mike, what do you think?
It's a big blow for the Bobcats, obviously. It's going to be hard replacing the team's first MAC Rookie of the Year since the 01-02 season. But even though the Bobcats have the whole offseason to think about that, it's going to be up to Baker Dunleavy to make that first real big executive decision. And I think it'll be interesting to see how he will carry out that decision, how he approaches this offseason now that he doesn't have Dixon, the best point guard on the team, obviously. So I think it'll be interesting.
I mean, there's two pieces that are lost now, and like as you mentioned, well, Mikey Dixon, Peter Kiss, we're still waiting for that. But there's still some excellent pieces there. How do you guys think that the coaching staff can regroup preparing for next season?
Well, the focus maybe move it to the front court now because they've really struggled in terms of rebounding, and Baker Dunleavy made it clear in his opening press conference that immediate changes would be in attitude and toughness, things they could control right away. So we're going to need to see a culture change here in Hamden. And in terms of the backcourt, just might have to start from the ground up. It's going to, like I said, it's going to take a little while, but I still think they're trending upward.
Well, Ryan, I do agree with you that they should be looking at the front court for rebounding and whatnot. I know they struggled with that. But I also think that another big idea is to make sure that they keep Peter Kiss at Quinnipiac, because obviously Dixon and Kiss had that dynamic duo sort of thing at this year, but you don't want to lose both of those guys. If they keep Kiss, I think they could definitely build around them.
Awesome, guys. Well, thanks for your analysis. And when we come back, we move from the hardwood to the diamond, where the baseball and softball teams continued conference play. And let's just say the broomsticks were brought out. We'll be right back.
It's 9:30 Eastern, and you know what that means. Sports Pause is on the air.
Ball played up the middle. Iman Whalen with a little cheat off the pipe.
Preseason just boils down to going after another national championship and not necessarily focusing on the one before.
MJ, it is time for our favorite part of the show. It's the top 5 plays of the week, brought to you by B&D Deli, home of the Q-Dog.
Let's talk about the first play you want to break down.
Yeah, let's break it down right away.
But the one name I'm going to throw out there is a freshman, Mika Maples.
Coming up on hashtag that. We are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news. All this and more.
Coming up on the Q30 Newscast.
Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
And welcome into Studio 125.
So what? So what?
If you score 40 points in a basketball game, we all know you play Quinnipiac Intramurals. We all know you love to shoot the rock.
Well, if you think that's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, what I'm about to say, I guess, is going to be pretty ridiculous in your book. But I'm going to say, yes, there is a controversy.
Line, getting ready to punch the ball as it lands right in front of another Monmouth player.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown, brought to you by Q Online. Finish your degree with online summer courses. So, guys, the women's softball team welcomed Sacred Heart today and handled business accordingly. Our very own Ryan Chai and Brian Shorts were there for all the action.
While Quinnipiac swept a doubleheader today against Sacred Heart, it was a 1-0 win in the first game and a 4-0 win in the second game. Took 10 innings in the first game, but both games were great starting pitching. Casey Herzog in the first and Abby Long in the second.
Well, the two combined for 17 innings of shutout ball, 10 strikeouts, and just 1 walk, which came in the 7th inning in the second game, where Long might have been having a little bit of fatigue, but Long didn't really have much trouble at all in the second game. Herzog had a couple instances where there were runners in scoring position, but reached into her bag of tricks and got out of every jam, and it was just a brilliant overall performance in the circle.
Yeah, both pitchers pitched really well, but it wouldn't have been for their defense and for the left side of the infield that really helped them out. Miranda Magana at shortstop and the third baseman Rebecca Drake played really well today in both games.
Yeah, the Bobcats came into this game with the most errors in the MAC, and they had a brilliant performance in the field. Not just those two. Marchuk had a nice diving play at second base, but it really was Drake and Magana on the left side of that infield. Even at the plate, they combined for 5 hits in the second game, scoring 2 of their 4 runs. So the offense runs through them too, and when they're going, the Bobcats are in good shape.
Well, coming up, they'll have Yale on Wednesday and Marist on Saturday for a doubleheader. Do you see this team really having? Do you see them making a run towards the postseason?
I actually do. The pitching has been trending upward in the past couple of weeks, and that duo of Herzog and Long can keep you in games just on their own. And if the defense is going to play like they did today and shake off the error woes of the early parts of the season, all they need is a little bit more balance in the order. They're a little top heavy with Drake and Magana at the top of the order. If they can get some contributions from the bottom half of the order, they could be a dangerous team in the tournament.
Well, we'll see. It was a good day for Quinnipiac as they swept a doubleheader. 1-0 in 10 innings and 4-0 in the second game in regulation. For Ryan Chichester, I'm Brian Schwartz. Back to you.
So guys, as we often see, impressive pitching on the mound, but some trouble putting some numbers on the board. Are we at all concerned with the team's offense?
I'm concerned. It worked out today in the form of a sweep of a doubleheader, but look as early as Sunday when they lost both games 2-1 in pitchers' duels. So it really can go either way. I'm concerned with the balance of this offense. Drake and Magana both had good games today, specifically in the second game when they were able to put across 4 runs, and they scored over half of those runs. So when they have a cold day at the plate, who's going to step up? No one else has shown that they're able to do it. And the pitching has been phenomenal, which is great, but there still needs to be some hitting. And a brilliant performance by Herzog today to get them to 10 shutout innings, and it took them 10 innings to scratch across 1 run, which came by way of a really soft contact blooper that just happened to find some outfield grass. So I definitely think it's a concern, and it could come back to bite them come tournament time.
See, Ryan, that's where I disagree with you. I don't think that the Bobcats really need to worry about their offensive woes right now because of their pitching right now. I mean, look at Herzog and Long. They were lights out today. 0 runs for the both of them, and Herzog went 10 innings without giving up a single run. That's insane. And especially, she's also gone in games where she's not even given up a hit through almost 6 innings.
But that's 10 innings in which the team didn't score a run. Pitching stops the other team from scoring runs, but pitching doesn't score you runs. And the winner of the game is whoever scores the most runs. So how can they win without any offense?
Well, the thing is, offense, it can win you games. Defense will win you championships. And that's what the Bobcats, I think, are going to look at.
And the Bobcats have committed the most errors in the MAC. So the defense is also an issue.
Well, as long as they are winning games through defense, I don't think they have to worry too much about that offense.
I mean, just to both of your points, it's not the prettiest thing ever, but they're winning, and it's a formula that they could keep moving on if they get the results. But anyways, guys, on the other side of the mound, QU men's baseball was just swept by a conference-leading Niagara team. Fellas, what's the biggest problem facing this team right now?
It's the defense. I just said the softball team committed the most errors in the MAC. The baseball team has committed the most errors in their conference as well. Their fielding percentage is also last in the MAC. I mentioned they have the most errors in the conference. That's 48 errors. The next highest team has 35. They've committed multiple errors in 10 out of their last 13 losses, including one of those games against Niagara. They committed 6 errors in 1 game. So you make that many errors and that many unearned runs, that they've given up the most runs in the MAC, but their ERA is ranked 7th in the conference. So there's 4 more teams behind them. So that clearly tells you there's a huge problem with their defense.
Yeah, but Ryan, there's also a bigger problem with their offense right now. Joseph Burns is the only player on the Bobcats with a batting average above 300, and he only has a 313. That's not good if you're on a baseball team. Check out Niagara's Greg Cullen. He has the highest batting average on the team, and he has a 373 average. And 2 more players on the team also have well above a 300. They got to get the bats going because that's how they're going to stay in these games where they give up a lot of runs. Obviously, they can't seem to rely on their starting pitching, and they have good relief, but it's just too little too late. So they got to get the bats going. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves getting blown out by other teams.
I don't see a problem with their starting pitching. They have Mike Davis, Blake Dakar, Chris Enns, Robert Hitt. All of them have ERAs under 4, and none of them have more than 1 win to their credit. That tells you that there's a whole lot of unearned runs there, and that comes back to the defense. And you mentioned the offense. Yes, they're struggling, but baseball is one of the most mentally taxing sports in terms of carrying over your struggles to the other side of your game. You're struggling on defense, it carries over to your at-bats, and it causes you to struggle at the plate when you're obsessing over that error you just made in the top half of that inning. And they have a whole lot of instances where they're coming to the plate remembering some bad errors they made, which resulted in some really bad rallies that they can't recover from.
Yeah, but Ryan, if you look at these top 3 pitchers, how many of them are starters? I don't see any of the top pitchers for the Bobcats right now starters. I see Mike Davis, their closer. I see Blake Dakar, and that's
well, the
really
bullpen
it.
needs to have a lot of action when the pitchers walk out of the mound giving up 7 runs and only 3 of them are earned. If you commit errors, the pitch count still goes up, and it's not necessarily the pitcher's fault.
I mean, guys, let's give credit to this Niagara team because they're a very good team. We were talking before the show. They handled a number 20 ranked Virginia team. If you're Coach Delaney or if you're on this team, how concerned are you with that sweep?
I'm very concerned. I just mentioned they made 6 errors in one game, 2 multiple error games in this series, and they showed that they can lose games in every fathomable way. They were blown out in one game, then they lost in an offensive slugfest when the bats were finally going, and then they lost a close 2-1 pitchers duel all in one series. So you drop all 3 games and losing them in every single fashion you can possibly think of, that's a major cause for concern.
Now, I'm not concerned personally with this sweep by Niagara because they're such a good team. I mean, obviously, when you beat a nationally ranked team, that just shows how high of a caliber team you are. And I wouldn't take the sweep too personally because they're such a high caliber team and they have the weapons to qualify for an NCAA tournament.
Right.
QU obviously doesn't have the weapons yet, and they got to look at the teams that they are more capable of beating.
Awesome, guys. Well, we'll keep this debate going, and when we come back, we break down the men's lacrosse playoff picture and rally on to discuss the success of both the men's and women's tennis programs. We'll be right back.
It's 9:30 Eastern, and you know what that means. Sports Pause is on the air.
Left ball played up the middle. Iman Whalen with a little cheat off the pipe.
Preseason just boils down to going after another national championship and not necessarily focusing on the one before.
MJ, it is time for our favorite part of the show. It's the top 5 plays of the week, brought to you by B&D Deli, home of the Q-Dog.
Let's talk about the first play you want to break down.
Yeah, let's break it down right away.
But the one name I'm going to throw out there is a freshman, Mika Maples.
Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
And welcome into Studio 125.
So what? Points. If you score 40 points in a basketball game, we all know you play Quinnipiac intramurals. We all know you love to shoot the rock.
Well, if you think that's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, what I'm about to say, I guess, is going to be pretty ridiculous in your book. But I'm going to say yes, there is a controversy.
Line, getting ready to punch the ball as it lands right in front of another Monumental player.
Coming up on hashtag that. We are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Welcome back, everyone. The men's lacrosse team found itself in a sink-or-swim situation in a rematch of last season's MAC championship final. Even after a late surge, the team was unable to overcome a first-half deficit and fell by a score of 9-8. Guys, what was your impression of that matchup against Marist? Mike, we'll start with you.
I thought QU fought very hard personally, Nick, because they only lost by 1 goal. And I thought that last week, obviously, we said on Breakdown that the Marist game is a must-win. Obviously, they didn't get it, but, you know, don't count these guys out yet. Obviously, Jack Brust, even though he has a 1-5 record behind in the net this season, 4 of those 6 games have been decided by 2 goals or less. I mean, if I'm the coach, that's all I ever want out of my senior goalie right now, is a player that just goes out there, does his best, and he keeps the game close.
Try, what do you think?
I'm concerned. I know it's a close game, and that's great, but there's really no moral points at this point when you're trying to make a playoff spot. They've lost their 3 MAC losses have come by a combined 4 goals, so they're basically just showing that they can't win these close games. And they've taken the most shots in the MAC, but their shot percentage is last in the conference. So their shot selection has been terrible. Their sharp angle shot at the buzzer to try to tie the game against Marist went wide, and now they're put themselves in a really bad spot for the playoffs. They have to face Siena and Canisius. Canisius is Canisius is 2nd in the conference. These are both on the road. Now they're chasing Marist. They don't have the tiebreaker against them. Marist still gets to play Manhattan, who's basically been the doormat of the MAC this year. They lose every game they play. So Quinnipiac's in a really bad spot right now.
Yeah, they essentially have to win out and hope for some losses from other people. But, guys, I mean, you just mentioned it before, senior Jack Brust is focal point of this team and a bunch of seniors as well. Our own, actually, Chris Dacey caught up with Jack Bruss right after the game to kind of just talk about his outlook for the rest of the season.
To be honest with you, it's hard to put into words. It's something that I'll cherish for the rest of my life, and it's made me the person I am today, and I'm forever grateful for that. So it's tough, but it's a hell of a ride.
Guys, obviously a tough loss for them. You can see the emotion right there on his face. Mike, just how valuable is his senior class for this program?
Extremely valuable. I mean, if you look at last year's success, they win the MAC championship, they get that first MAC tourney win. Obviously, these seniors are going to be a little more special than other senior classes, but it's not just Jack Bruss. It's Drew D'Antonio as well. He started off the season hot with 12 points. Obviously, he's been struggling a little bit, but if you got a good player that goes out there and he can give you some points at least, then that's all you can ever want from a player. So, yeah, this senior class is a little more special.
And you mentioned D'Antonio, and he's not necessarily lighting up the scoring column anymore, but he's still in the top 10 in the MAC in assists. He's giving his teammates chances. Like I mentioned earlier, the shot percentage just isn't there, 25%. D'Antonio is getting his teammates looks. They're just not capitalizing on them. And Bruss, of course, he's been amazing for the Bobcats his whole career. Tourney MVP last year. A sport like lacrosse, you can ride really hot goaltending to a championship. There's just not enough around him for it this year.
There might have to be some individual performances from certain lacrosse players. But speaking of individual performances, certain tennis stars have been buzzing around campus, and a playoff push is right around the corner. Guys, what are your expectations for both the men's and women's programs? Chai, we'll start with you.
I'm excited for the men's programs. You have Kei Azaka and Kyle Alper, one of the most dominant doubles forces in the MAC as of late. Azaka just became the winningest player in Bobcats history. I was able to sit down and talk with him last week, and just looking at his evolution as just a teammate, not just the individual stats. He's one of the most prominent athletes that we can remember here. We just don't realize it because there's not as much exposure for him, but he's a top 100 recruit in the country when he came here. He won his first 13 matches as a freshman. He's a dynamic force, and I can see the Bobcats making a run for the MAC championship.
Yeah, Ryan, I also agree with you. I'm excited to see how the men's tennis team does in the MAC tournament. I'm also excited to see the women's tennis team as well, because they haven't lost a MAC game since 2013, I believe it was.
It's been about 3 years since the Knicks won a playoff game, so a really long time.
Yeah, 3 years when you...
Don't bring the Knicks into this.
When you win every game in the conference, that's pretty impressive, and I can't wait to see what they do for a fourth year.
Guys, besides everybody here at Bobcat Breakdown, as you mentioned, this tennis program doesn't really get the recognition it deserves. Some great performances and great individual stars on the team. Why do you guys think that's the case? Why don't they get the recognition they deserve?
They're just a victim of the nature of the sport. Not just this school, but this region in general isn't big on tennis, so they don't necessarily get the exposure they deserve. But it's important to realize, Michael said it, that they haven't lost a conference game in years. They just beat a Siena team that came in 15-0. So this is a good team that takes down other good teams and are worth watching if people just give them the time.
Well, we'll definitely keep our eye on them. So guys, let's move on to our game of the week. The men's baseball team tries to get back into the playoff picture as they travel down to New Rochelle to face the Iona Gales. Guys, what's the outlook for this matchup? Mike, let's start with you.
Even though these two teams aren't top-ranked teams in the MAC, QU and Iona are 7th and the 9th seeds, so both of these teams know that they are capable of beating each other, and I think that is why they are game of the week, because they know that they can put up a good fight against each other and battle it out for a better seeding.
I foresee a lot of errors and a lot of runs.
Good forecast. All right, gentlemen, that's all the time we have this week on Bobcat Breakdown. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at QBSN and at Q30 Sports, and check out our websites at theqbsn.com and q30television.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week here on Bobcat Breakdown.